So lighting system එක බලන්න එපා.
Yeah. Dr. Ija, shall we
හරිද පේනවද?
15 minutes late? Shall we start now?
Yeah. How is my lighting? Everything is okay?
Good,
Yeah,
good.
okay, sure.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening to you all. Thank you very much for joining
Evening.
Sri Lanka Veterinary Association webinar series once again. Today, our topic is abstract writing. This is the second workshop organized for aiming 76 scientific session of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. Our resource person is Professor Kalana Maduwage, Senior Lecturer, Biochemical Sciences, University of New England, New South Wales, Australia. Thank you, sir, for accepting the invitation for our webinar today. Our moderator is Professor Neil Lalas, Head, Department Biochemistry, Faculty of Medicine, University of Peradeniya. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation as moderator today. Without getting much time, I would like to invite Dr. Mohammad Ijaz, the President of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, to welcome you all.
Thank you, Dr. Sugat. And thank you again for Professor Neil Lalas and Professor Kalana to accepting our fine invitation. And this is a timely presentation. I guess many members are waiting. They are still writing their abstract. In fact, in the last moment also, I managed to ask someone to log in. And Professor Kalana, thank you very much for your kind attention and your contribution. I understand the last year also you have done a marvelous job. And thank you again. Just saying welcome you all for this interact. I would say let it be an interactive session as much as possible, because I understand this a very important topic for the abstract submitting members, and make it more interactive. And thank you again for Professor Kalana to accepting our invitation. Over to you, Professor Dr. Sugat and Professor Neil Lalas to take forward this much awaited webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I would like to invite Professor Neil Lalas to continue and introduce our resource person today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, President sir and Dr. Sugat. And again, I warmly welcome my friend and my colleague, Professor Kalana Maduwage. And before he left for his new position at the University of New England, New South Wales, Australia, he was worked with me at the Department of Biochemistry as a professor in biochemistry. And currently, actually, he's having nearly 70 scientific publications, all that published in the peer-reviewed journal, the international journals. And he's having more than 2,000 citations. And he Okay, sorry for the interruption. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, perfect. Yes, we have a lot of interruptions today, the heavy rain and a lot of things are there. That is why, this, in technical problems, and you can understand the Sri Lanka situation as you worked here. That, and anyway, I apologize for this delay. Actually, we couldn't, log in and set up all the things on time. And he's having 25H index, that he has done a lot of research in clinical, experimental toxinology, and then randomized control clinical trials, a lot of things actually. And he won a lot of, awards actually. If I, read out, if I read actually that some of prestigious ones, that CVC CD award and several presidential awards, Australian Leadership Award, and that Aspen Social Innovation Award, and then university, that the a lot of awards in university. Recently, I heard that Professor Kalana, you had some interviews with very prestigious journals. I mean, the officials of very two prestigious journals anyway, Nature, and other one is Science Made. Am I correct, Professor Kalana? So, and he's having that
Yes.
kind. I mean, if I introduce these kind of things to other one, I mean, those who are already linked to this one, log into this link, and those who are already in YouTube and FB. No, he's having such a caliber, So, and he has done a lot of orations and, a lot of journals, and, he's having a lot of very, very, uh, uh, his weight of research and the papers he's having really prestigious. So without taking much time, as we are behind the schedule, I invite you, Professor Kalana, to start this session. That this is all you, sir. Please start.
Right. I hope all of you can hear me very clearly and see the shared screen. If there's any problem, please let me know. President, Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, and the Secretary, Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, thank you very much for inviting me to deliver this very important webinar. I think this is the third or the fourth year that I am contributing to Sri Lanka Veterinary Association annual scientific sessions and conducting this webinar. Professor Neil Lalas, my very close friend when I was working in the Department of Biochemistry, University of Peradeniya. Thank you very much for fantastic introduction and linking me to deliver this webinar to the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. At any time, please stop me and raise your question. You can interrupt me at any time. I'll continue as it is. During this next 45 minutes, I'll try my best to discuss most of the angles in abstract writing. I prepared my presentation not to miss anything related to abstract writing. Even though it's just a half a page or 1 page write-up, there's a huge preparation, proofreading, and fine-tuning in abstract writing. Abstract is basically one of the most powerful way to show off and communicate your research finding to the audience and to the rest of the scientific community. Therefore, this is really important, and I'm really glad that Sri Lanka Veterinary Association annually organizing this abstract writing webinar to enhance and enhance the skills of abstract writing to all the relevant academics as well as students and anyone who is in the field of science. Please, when I ask some questions, if you know and if you can contribute to the discussions, please raise your voice, right? Unmute your microphone and then just talk. And that will be really important for me to conduct this as an interactive session. Right. First, we'll talk about what is a scientific abstract. Quickly, just any idea about how do you define a scientific abstract? What is a scientific abstract? Right. We are basically talking about only scientific abstracts. Abstracts are everywhere, right? Abstracts are everywhere. And a drawing or a painting is also an abstract, right? Therefore, there are several abstracts we can see in our culture, our society, and our daily practice, day-to-day life. But I'm basically talking about the scientific abstract. Scientific abstract is a very concise presentation of the major component of a scientific study. If someone asks to describe what is a scientific abstract in one sentence, this is a way. This is not the way, but this is a one most important way that you can describe what is a scientific abstract. So very concise presentation of a major component of a full scientific study. And abstract should include the purpose of the study and how you have done and what you have found. There are three major things you have to concern about scientific abstract writing: purpose, why you have done, how you have done, what you have found. And it's a condensed version of the full paper, right? And remember, it's not a part. Abstract is not a part. It's a condensed or the abstracted or the summarized version of the full paper. And this is the most widely distributed communication mode among the scientists, right? Abstracts are widely distributed and used by scientific community than the full papers or book chapters, right? It's the commonest way of scientific communication, right? Sometimes some of the researchers, they just stop communication in their research findings at the level of abstract, and they are not going to interest on publish as a full paper. Therefore, this is the most commonest way of scientific communication. And this is a motivational factor to read the full paper. If someone has access to the abstract and go through the abstract, based on the abstract findings, the reader will be motivated to access the full paper and read the full paper. Therefore, your abstract is a very important advertisement and a mode of very powerful communication of what you have done, which is more important sometimes than the full paper. Because if you have written your abstract nicely, then your full paper will be accessed by many people, right? And you have to write it in as a quickly understood format, right? And this is important for the search for the relevant articles and study in the database. Based on your abstract, the other readers and other scientists, they will search for other relevant articles or some of your other relevant findings in other databases such as PubMed or Medline or any other databases. Right. And abstract is one of the most important part of a scientific article. If you are considered about a full paper published in a scientific journal, abstract, you have to write an abstract, right? After the title and the author's list, and then the keywords, and then you have to write an abstract. Therefore, abstract can be seen as a part of a scientific full paper, right? And good authors put a very huge effort about writing an abstract. Imagine you are writing a full paper, but the good scientists and writers, they put a substantial effort to write the abstract in a very clear and powerful and precise way, because depend on the abstract reading, the readers or the audience will decide whether they are going to read the rest of the full paper. Therefore, please give your huge amount of attention and time to write your abstract, even you are writing a full paper, right? It's like an advertisement of your full paper or a study, right? And sometimes this is the only section of the paper read by the other scientist. They're not interested about reading the rest of the methodology or discussion, but they will read the abstract and decide whether they are going to read the full paper or not, right? And sometimes we have to present our abstract in conferences, right? And when you submit your abstract into the conferences, the selection panel will read the abstract and decide whether this abstract is up to the level of accepting as a platform presentation or oral presentation, or accept as a poster presentation or reject it. Therefore, abstract writing is utmost important in it's writing a full paper or a conference submission, right? And it's a good predictor of the quality of the paper or talk, right? Imagine if you are going to submit an abstract to the conference, your audience usually read your abstract in the abstract book or the conference proceeding and decide, okay, whether I want to listen to this talk or not. Therefore, your abstract should be in good quality, sometimes than your platform presentation or the full paper, right? And abstract should reflect all the parts of your paper, but in the shortened form, right? Please, some students and some young researchers, they think like abstract is a part of the study, is presenting only the part of the study. That's not right. Abstract should composed of all the parts of the full study, but in a shortened form, right? And when someone is reading your abstract, they should be able to understand why you have conducted this study, how you have conducted this study, what you found, and why it is important, right? And please keep these 4 questions in your head when you write in your abstract, before you plan in your abstract, while you are writing your abstract, and at the end of the abstract, right? Why you have conducted the study, how you conduct the study, what you find, and why it is important. If you can't find the answers for these 4 questions, there's some problem in your abstract, right? And report only the numbers that present most important to your study. And I have seen many abstract while I'm reviewing some papers, especially in journal articles, as well as in conference proceedings. Sometimes the authors are trying to present all the numbers in great detail in the abstract. That is not relevant at all, right? Please decide, please give your attention and select the most important numbers that you are going to present in the abstract, because you don't have much time and much word count to include all the numbers. Right. An abstract include the points covering these questions, right? What is your paper about? That is represented by the title and the first sentence of the introduction. The title should be descriptive title, and usually most of the conferences or journal articles, they usually accept 75 words or 2 or 3 lines, right? Therefore, title can present as much as descriptive in your abstract, right? And why it is important, that has to be included in the introduction. I'll come back to in all these sections again and again. This is just an overview. And how did you do that? That should include in the methodology of the abstract. What did you find? That should come in the under the results. And what are your significant findings? What are your findings? Why are your findings are significant? That means the discussion, whether this is the first time in the world that you are describing this relationship or association, because this is a controversial to the some of the previously published abstract or papers. Those are the things that should include in the discussion, right? Okay. Why we need to write abstract? Any inputs, any ideas? Why we write abstracts? Right. Abstracts are writing for selection and indexing purpose, right? That means in a field of science, like if it is a veterinary medicine or a human medicine or any other kind of subdiscipline, any field, abstracts are important for selecting that particular publication or study categorized into different sections. Whether it's a veterinary pathology or veterinary microbiology or veterinary medicine or veterinary pharmacology, that selection happen based on the information written in the abstract. Therefore, selection of your study in a massive database in the science depend on the abstract, as well as indexing, right? Abstracts are important to index your full article or the abstract in various indexing formats, like a Google Scholar or PubMed citations or some kind of any similar kind of thing. Indexing, it's also depend on abstract, right? And abstracts allow the readers interest in the paper to quickly decide whether it is relevant to their purpose and whether they need to read the whole paper, right? Therefore, selection is also depend on your abstract. Indexing, it's as I explained to you earlier, the journal database access and library cataloging, library indexing, everything is based on what you have written in the abstract. And most of the conference proceedings, as well as abstract in full paper publication in journals, they ask to write 4 or 5 key terms or keywords. These keywords are used to categorize your article, categorize your abstract in different databases, right? That's important to research and access to your abstract in the future references depend on these key terms. I will discuss about the keyword selection at the latter part of this presentation. Right. They are the situations that we need to write abstract, submission of the article to journal. That's an integral or the commonest way that we have to write the abstract. When you write the full paper, you have to write an abstract. But the writing of the abstract of a full paper should be the last thing in your article writing, right? Abstract should be right as the last thing in your full paper writing. And then sometimes we need to write an abstract for the application for research grants, right? Sometimes you have to write the abstract in lay term or general term, which you can understand by anyone, or sometimes you have to write the abstract in the research grant as a scientific abstract, right? And completion and submission of theses, as most of you have gone through M.Phils and MSC's theses as well as PhDs, and all these theses or any dissertations and abstract should be there. Therefore, writing of the scientific thesis, writing abstracts a part of that. And submission of the proposal for conference papers, as the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association manual conferences, you have to write abstract, and then the selection panel will decide whether this is going to be an oral presentation or a poster presentation or reject. And therefore, you have to write the abstract for the conference presentations. And sometimes you have to write the abstract as a beginning of the book chapter. Some book chapters, especially the scientific book chapters, abstract should be there as the first part of the book chapter. These are the situations that we have to write abstracts, right? And sometimes, especially students and the beginners, those who are entering into the scientific writing, they have some confusion between the abstract as well as the introduction of the full paper. That's why I thought to include this slide. Abstract is a completely different thing to the introduction section of full paper. Abstract is a concise, summarized version of a full study. But introduction for full paper, which only lay down the background information and highlight the importance of your study. Introduction never discuss about methodology or results or discussion points, but the abstract is a precise, concise, and summarized version of the full paper, which should cover the background, purpose, and aims, like that mean the objectives, method, results, conclusion, and implication and discussion points. Introduction is only cover the background, the purpose of the study, and the justification, and maybe the overall aim of the study. Therefore, introduction and abstract are completely two different things in scientific writing. Right. There are 4 key areas should be in every abstract. What problem did you study and why it is important? That has to be there in your abstract. This should cover, the answer for this question should cover in the background of the study. How did you motivate to do this study, and what specific question or hypothesis you have addressed, right? That should basically come under the first few lines of your abstract. And then what method did you use to study this problem or to find the answer for your question? And this is the overview of your method, right? What was the field of study? Whether this is a clinical trial, whether this is a laboratory experiment, whether this is an in vitro or in vivo experiment, or what kind of study method that you have used should be presented in the abstract. And what experimental treatments were applied? If it is an interventional study, giving a drug or a vaccine or a kind of a new intervention, you have to include that. And generally, methodology section should be very brief, and most of the time it depends on the number of words. You should be able to describe the methodology section of the most of the abstract by 1 sentence or maximum 2 sentences. I'll come back to it. Third question, third key area should be in the abstract is, what were your key findings? Only the key finding. Main finding, list not more than 2 or 3 points. Don't try to present all what you have found in the abstract. Only the 2 or 3 key findings can be included in the abstract. And the fourth area, what did you conclude based on what you have found, and what are the implications or application of your finding? This is considered as a conclusion as well as the application, and whether this is new or this is the first time finding, or what are the other relevant publications or previous findings, how your findings can be similar or different, or how it is different from the previous study, has to be included under the fourth question. Right. Scientific abstracts, basically in conferences, there are 2 abstract presentations in conferences: text, that is basically the written in the conference proceedings, and then poster presentations. I'll come back to the text version of conference presentations and poster presentations in the latter part. And then you have to write the abstract in journal articles. Nowadays, most of the journals are requested to submit what is called graphical abstract, which is a concise and graphical way, an illustrated way of presenting your abstract. And some journals, they basically ask to prepare a video abstract, sometimes 1 or 2 minutes video abstract about everything about your research finding. Now, these video abstracts are very popular in some very recently introduced good journals, and because these journals usually maintain the podcast series or YouTube based communication mode. That's why the video abstracts also come in commonly in some journals, right? And sometimes abstracts, this is another way of abstract. Some journals ask to write highlights, right? 3 or 4 or 5 single sentence highlights of the full article. That's also another abstracted way of presenting your whole study using highlights, right? A good abstract should be concise, but should be complete. All relevant findings, all relevant information should be there. That's why it's called complete. Concise means which is short and informative, right? And should be short within the given period, given number of words, but it should powerfully and effectively communicate the whole study to the relevant audience. Therefore, good abstract should be concise, but complete, precise, and powerfully and effectively communicate. Now look at this graphical abstract. This is a graphical abstract, right? You can see by a simple graph, when you see this image, it highlights the importance of rainforest or forest in our planet, and what's going to happen when there's a destruction of excuse me. I'm sorry. Right. You can see this graphical abstract has powerfully and effectively communicate the importance of forest in our planet, right? You can see it has created the shape of 2 lungs, and half of the left lung has been destroyed by deforestation. And see how powerfully this message can disseminate to anyone, right? even for a school student can understand the importance of maintaining our rainforest and why it is important to maintain the air or the oxygen and lack of pollution in the environment. This is similarly, abstracts also should pass the message as seen in this diagram. Therefore, at the end of your abstract writing, just relax and think whether my abstract has passed the message effectively and powerfully to the audience. If you are not satisfied, revise it again and get some advice from a experienced abstract writer or a senior person and refine it, edit it many times until you are satisfied in powerfully and effectively communicate what you have done. There are abstract can be written in many ways. Always before you write to abstract, it may be for your future conference or as a part of the full paper when you are writing your abstract to the scientific journal. Before you write your abstract, carefully read the author's guideline. First, check whether they have asked to submit a structured abstract or an unstructured abstract. Structured abstract, they need to divide your abstract into several sections under subheadings. The first, title, authors, and affiliation, and then introduction. Sometimes introduction section may be present as background or problem, but basically they are pretty much same, close to each other. Then they will ask, okay, what are the objectives? What method? Results, plus or minus discussion, or discussion and conclusion can be separate section. Some abstract, there are few references if you are submitting your abstract to the conferences. Sometimes some conference abstract allow a 1 or 2 tables or 1 or 2 figures or images. This is what is called structured abstract. If they ask to write an structured abstract, you have to write your sentences and text according to these subheadings. And this is an example of a structured abstract published international scientific conference. See, huge number of words. Special reference allowed the word count until 500 words, but most of the scientific conferences usually allow 200, 250, and maximum 300 words. But this particular conference, they asked the scientists to write the maximum 500 words. That's why it's very lengthy abstract. You can see it's structured abstract, title, authors affiliation, and then straight away objectives, not the introduction, that's what they want, method, results, and conclusion. Right? If you carefully look at this abstract, very few number of, I think 2 sentences are used in objectives, or maybe 1. 2 sentences are in methodology. 2 or 3 sentences are in methodology. Majority of the abstract word count have used to present the results, and a small number of word count for conclusion. Nearly 50% of the word count is better to spend under the results, right? Not in other ways. But what I have read in most of the Sri Lankan abstract, they submit to different conferences. The writers or the researchers, they spend much of their word count to introduction and methodology, and then a significant number of words under the results. But remember, vaguely, like 40 to 60% of the word count can be thoughtfully used to write your results. An unstructured abstract. Some conferences and some journal articles, they ask you to write an unstructured abstract. It basically asks title, authors, and affiliation. That should be the integral part, like a necessary part of compulsory part of the unstructured abstract, and all other components are there, but there are no subdivisions or subheadings, right? All the introduction, objectives, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusions are there, but not under different subheadings. That is the only difference between structured and unstructured abstract. Now, this is an example for unstructured abstract presented in one of the conference. You can see the title or the And the rest of the one paragraph, it's a single paragraph, unstructured abstract. But when you carefully see, you can divide the sections in different subheadings. Now, first you can see the first 3 sentences, the introduction and aim objectives. And then the second section is basically the methodology. And then the majority of the abstract word count has been used to results and discussion. If you are going to write an unstructured abstract, first you can divide your abstract into subheadings or structure. Then soon before you submit, you forget about the subheadings and combine everything and you can submit, right? Therefore, at the very beginning, if you are writing your abstract as a beginner, write like you can learn and practice to write your abstract as then you forget about the subheadings and combine your sentences and to make it to unstructured abstract. Right. And always carefully follow the conference guidelines. I know there are some international conference selection committees. When you not follow the conference guideline about abstract writing, they just reject based on because you have not followed their guidelines and their format. Even though you have done a nice study, because your abstract is poorly written, that may be the reason for the rejection. Or they will consider it as a poster presentation, not giving the oral presentation provision. And check whether they need a structured or unstructured abstract. Consider about the word count. Don't exceed the word count even by 1 word, because they plan the maximum word count based on their printing capacity of the full page abstract in their proceedings. Formatting is very important. Read about whether they need capital title letters, title characters in capital or simple, underline the presenting author or the corresponding author, whether it's a bold or not, all italic version or anything. All this formatting has to be considered. And title word count, some conferences, they need a restricted word count for title, maybe 70 or 60 word count, and format of the authors. All these things has to be followed and read carefully before you submit. This is the allocation of word count into sections. This is not a hard and fast guide, but generally you can follow this method. 1 sentence for the introduction and 1 sentence for the justification, right? If it is a 250 to 300 word count abstract, you can't spend more than 1 sentence for introduction and 1 sentence for justification in the introduction, because you don't have any other words. 1 sentence for objectives. Then first 3 sentences, you have introduced your study, you have justified your study, and you have introduced your objective. 1 or maximum 2 sentences for methodology. Basically, at this point, now you have basically finished your 30% or 35% of your word count. Then result section can spend 1/3 to half of your word count. If it is a 300 word count abstract, you can spend like 100 to 150 words for results. Therefore, results section should be the bulkiest part of your abstract. Discussion and conclusion, it should be 1/3 of the word count roughly. This is a very vague guide or rough guide about abstract writing, especially for the beginners and for the students. In the method section, you have to present what type of studies that. Whether it's a prospective observational study, whether it's a double-blind randomized controlled trial, whether it's a retrospective study, whether this is a mice-based in vivo type of study or in vitro study or any other kind of study. The type of study should present in the abstract. Please remember that. I have seen many studies, many abstracts, especially circulate around University of Peradeniya. The abstract have not described the type of study. Therefore, first try to find out what type of study that you have done. And then the duration. If it is an interventional study or a clinical study, prospective or retrospective study, please mention the duration of your recruitment or data collection. This is not very important for in vitro or in vivo study. That's not very important. But if it is an interventional kind of human study or animal study, please include the duration. and the setting. If it is a clinical or animal experiment, the interventional kind of experiment, mention the location, the station, whether it's a hospital base, whether it's a farm base, or which location that you have conducted this study. And then the data collection method, whether it's based on the interviewer administered questionnaire, participant completed questionnaire, whether it's based on serial sample collection, whether it's a demographic study or a clinical or biochemical, that kind of thing should include in the under the method. If you carefully practice, you can write all these things in a single sentence or maximum 2 sentences. And no need to mention about statistic test that you have used under the methodology. If it is a 500 words abstract, that's all right. You can introduce the statistic methodology. But if it is a 300 or 250 word count abstract, there's no room to write your statistics methodology. So you don't need. When you present your results section, you can indirectly present the statistical analysis in some abstracts. In some abstract. Can you please mute your microphones unless you have some questions to raise? Right, thank you. Right, that's about the method section. And in the results section, what you have to present in the results section, definitely you have to mention number of subjects that you have included, number of animals or humans that you have included in the study should be mentioned. And the percentage and the number of male, if you are going to collect the data from male and female both. Present, please describe the number of males and the percentage of male. But you don't need to mention the number of females and the percentage of females, because there are only 2 categories, males and females. When you present the number of the complete number, the total number plus male, numbers of male and the percentage of male, invariably the audience know the number and the percentage of the female. Therefore, you don't need to write specifically the number and the female percentage in your abstract. You don't need, right? You can save many number of words by not doing that. And if it is a clinical study or animal study, it depends on whether it's important to present your age, but if it's definitely a clinical study, please present the age, median age, and then the range or interquartile range of the age of your subjects. And then you can present your results. First, you think and decide what are the results that I'm going to present in this abstract and what are the results that I'm not going to present in this abstract. When you decide, okay, these are the results that I'm going to present in this abstract, think about why. What is the message I'm going to pass to the audience by presenting this finding? If it is any study on anemia, yes, you have to definitely present the hemoglobin. This is how you can present the hemoglobin in the cases and controls, like mean hemoglobin. You can see HB, I have restricted and abbreviated it, 7.6 grams per deciliter, interquartile range IQR 6.8 to 8.4. And here you can see HB, I'm going to use the HB abbreviation for the hereafter. And interquartile range, I'm going to use IQR for the rest of the abstract. This is how we can present and reduce the number of word counts and present our results in concise and precise way. And see, if you are going to present 3 different things, 3 different information by a single sentence, this is a nice way to write to abstract. Mean factor 5, factor 7, and factor 10 concentrations were 40%, 67%, and 85% respectively. You are presenting 3 values and 3 percentages of 3 different analytes by a single sentence by keeping your word count minimum. This is how you can write a sentence in results after doing the analysis and the statistical analysis and correlating pre-antivenom venom concentrations and the INR and APTT were correlated. That is the message that you have to pass. Venom concentration and INR and APTT were correlated. there's association or positive correlation. See, you can introduce the statistical method that you have mentioned, you have used for this statement, non-parametric Spearman analysis. You can see the R square value 0.2 and P value is 0.02. See, with the APTT, venom and INR, R is 0.2. Venom and APTT, R is 0.19 and P is 0.03. See, I have presented the association of venom with INR, association of venom with APTT, and introducing and describing the statistical test that I have used, as well as the correlation and statistical significance by a single sentence. When you write abstract, you will pioneer this technique, right? There will be no problem. You will get into this level when you write to abstract. When you write 10 or 15 abstract to different conferences and papers, automatically this skill will develop among yourself. Therefore, try to write to abstract as much as possible. Even though you don't have conferences or full papers or journal article to write, if you have a small set of data, write the abstract and practice it, right? When you get into the level of writing a very nice abstract and powerful abstract, you will be very satisfied, right? It is a very satisfying moment, and you can be very satisfied about writing a very precise and powerful abstract. There are a few tips that I'm happy to share with you while you are writing your abstract. Avoid the use of these vague words. In science, usually, if you can avoid these words, that is best. Because based on your results, what you can say, whether it's correlated or not correlated, whether it's associated or not associated, whether the drug A is working or not working, right? This amount of working, the significance of association, or the significance of correlation, or the significance of association or effectiveness is presented by R square value or P value. Therefore, you don't need to use these vague English words in your abstract or in a full paper. If it is correlated, it is correlated. The level of correlated can be judged and determined by the R square value, right? If it is associated, you don't need to write it might associated, or it may associated, or it could associated, it seems to be associated. No, you just say there's a positive association or positive correlation between A and B, and then present the R square value. Therefore, please avoid this might, may, could, seems to be like kind of vague and intermediate kind of words used in your abstract. This will reduce and drop the significance of your findings and reduce the effective communication and the power of your study to the audience. Use the most appropriate word. If you are not sure about whether you can use any better word other than this word, please use thesaurus or synonyms and find out the best matching word, because English is not our first language. Usually, most of our abstracts are using not the appropriate words in most of the abstract. Therefore, use synonyms and thesaurus to find the appropriate word. Writing a good abstract will take time and take days and a huge commitment, but it is worth. And use active voice as much as possible than passive voice. I'll explain it later. And some of you may not agree with me. Most of the scientific writers in Sri Lanka and Asian continents, and we try to use passive voice in writing abstract, but the message and the communication is powerful and effective in active voice writing than in passive voice. And this is an example. You can write, we studied 10 patients with pneumonia. It is very clear and close to the audience than 10 patients with pneumonia were studied. See, the passive voice, 10 patients with pneumonia were studied by us in this study. No, we studied 10 patients with pneumonia. That is more powerful. right? Therefore, please use active voice in abstract writing. That is more powerful. If you read the abstract in top journals in the world, very simple English, very simple sentences with plain English and in active voice. Avoid starting sentences with numeric values. This is another very common mistake that most of the Sri Lankan scientists and students are doing. They study the sentences with numeric value, 10 patients with pneumonia or something like that. No, just start 10, T-E-N. There will be no excess word count of writing the numeric values in words, right? In letters. And 10 patients, or you can write a total of 10 patients. But when you write a total of 10 patients, you are going to use extra words. But write 10 patients. Don't start your sentences with a numeric value. Use the full terms when used at the first time, especially international normalized ratio. If you are not going to use international standard abbreviation like meters or kilograms or seconds or something, always define and describe the abbreviations when you use it for the first time. Write one thought per sentence. Don't try to incorporate 2 or 3 or 4 ideas and messages into one sentence in abstract writing. Simply precise one thought or one message per sentence. Grammar-wise, this is what you can write in introduction. Like this is most of the time like we use, you can compare these two different versions, right? Under the introduction, you can write that this study will investigate the relationship between coffee consumption and productivity. This study investigates the relationship between coffee consumption and productivity. You don't need to write will investigate, or you can write investigated, right? Or write in plain English, like this study investigate, simple present tense, the relationship between coffee consumption and productivity, something like that, which is very close to the reader, very effective in communicating your ideas. Under the method, the structured interviews will be conducted with 25 participants. The better way, the structured interviews conducted among 25 participants. Simple present tense, or simple past tense. Right? Under the results, our analysis has shown a strong correlation between coffee consumption and productivity. This is the better way. Our analysis shows, not has shown, shows. If it is correlated, you can say our analysis shows a strong correlation between coffee consumption and the productivity. Right? Therefore, you don't need, you can save a few number of words by describing your ideas in active voice and simple sentences. When you are going to use passive voice, always you have to add 1 or 2 extra words. Or you can write analysis showed the strong correlation. It's a simple past tense, showed a strong correlation between coffee and the productivity. It depends whether you have to use present tense or past tense in abstract writing. Introduction, you can write everything in simple present tense, right? Methodology, yes, you can write past tense. We interviewed, or we collected the data, and something like that. Under the results, you can write simple present tense or simple past tense. Write clearly and concisely, right? A good abstract is short, but impactful and powerful, right? To make sure every word count, right? And in scientific writing, you can avoid the in the middle of the sentence. You don't need to write the in scientific writing. Most of the journals, they don't consider about using the word, the THE word in the middle of the sentence, right? The hemoglobin or the subject or something, right? You can just avoid the word the when you are writing, especially abstract, and save your word count. right? Keep your abstract or summary short and very clear. Avoid passive voice and avoid long sentences, right? You can write like, in addition to, in order to, you can just write to, right? Because that will not adversely affect the effective communication of what you are going to tell, right? Avoid obscure jargon. Like sometimes there may be some audience or participants of your conference, they may not be exactly know your field of study. Therefore, you don't need to use the technical words unless it's really important, right? Try not to use in detail or very technical word in open conferences. It depends on your conference. If there's a special conference about veterinary pathophysiology or veterinary pathology, yes, you know, most of the audience or the participant of the conference are veterinary pathologists, then that's okay. But if you are going to present your abstract to a veterinary conference, veterinary science conference, like in this case, Sri Lanka Veterinary Association annual conference, the audience is wide. They may come from different backgrounds, right? Not only from academia, not only from research, they may be from teaching side, they may be from government side, or some other pharmaceutical industries also will attend. Therefore, depends on the focus of your conference. Think about the words, especially the scientific term and scientific words that you are going to include your abstract. Try to avoid the scientific words and specific terms if your conference, especially in a open type of a wide audience conference. Avoid repetition and filler words, and you can replace the nouns with pronouns, and when possible, and eliminate the unnecessary words. Always think about whether, how can I cut down the word count, right? And avoid detailed descriptions. You don't need to describe every step, everything in detail in abstract. Should be very concise because you are struggling to present everything within a limited word count. And there are a few tips. Carefully eliminate the unnecessary word. Correct grammar. Check whether when you read the abstract, you can find a cohesion or a link between the first sentence to the second one, and then second one to the third one and the fourth one, especially in the result section and the discussion section and conclusion. That cohesion should be there. Then the reader can read it and understand the overall of your study without any problem. Avoid repetition of the same word. That is quite boring to the reader. Try to use a similar or synonym word instead of using the same word. Review and review and then review many times by multiple people and fine tune your abstract. When you write your abstract, don't write your abstract the day before your conference closing date, right? Abstract submission deadline, closing date. Always start your abstract writing at least 2 weeks before. First, sketch what you are going to write, which data you are going to present, which numbers you are going to present, what are your objectives and everything, and make into a structure and to a sketch. Then write to abstract step by step. First, write the objectives and then write the methodology. Then write the results. Then write the discussion and conclusion. Finally, you can write the introduction and justification, right? First, write the objectives because you are very well prepared and you are aware and pretty sure about your objectives. You know the methodology, write it, and then you know your results, and then conclusion and discussion. Then finally, you can write the most powerful sentences to introduction and justification. And reviewing, take your time and review. Sometimes when you review your abstract by yourself by 100 times, you will not pick up the issues and errors and the way to improvement. Therefore, when you write to abstract and review by yourself few times in multiple days and multiple locations, and please give the abstract to someone else, a co-author or a senior person or a friend. Just ask, okay, what do you think? Whether you think like, can you understand what I have done? what do you think? How can I improve this? What are the best words that I can use instead of these words? How can I cut down my word count? Do you think like I can improve this in any other way? Something like that. Take the multiple inputs from multiple people in different times and review and review and review, and then fine tune. Right. A sequence of writing abstract, as I explained to you earlier, objectives, methodology, results, conclusion, and discussion point. Finally, you can write the introduction and justification. And some situations you are going to present case reports. Case report abstract writing is a little bit different to the full paper or a study, full study abstract writing. And most of the abstract word count in case reports basically consider the writing of the case. Writing of the case should happen in a chronologically. What happened to the patient or the animals when it or patient present to the hospital, what happened then, and subsequently. And then you can write a brief introduction, why this case is very unique by 1 or 2 sentences, because this case, this disease or this presentation has not been reported in anywhere in the world. This is the world first such case report we observe. Or something like that. You have to highlight this case report under the introduction of the case report abstract writing. And then conclusion, maybe 1 or 2 sentences if it is a case report abstract. The bulk of the word count in case report abstract should be utilized to describe the case in a chronological order. And this is an abstract case report what was published in PubMed. You can see it's basically 150 words, 150 word abstract based on a case report. You can see basically there's no introduction, right? A 65-year-old previously healthy farmer developed a thrombotic microangiopathy and so on and so forth. And then what happened and what happened and what happened, right? And you can see the last sentence, TMA caused by this snake is the commonest species of this snake, has previously been reported, but this is the first known case of TMA following a bite of this snake. That is the endemic species of Sri Lanka. See the final word of this abstract case report abstract highlighted and justified and raised the importance of this case, right? And then the poster presentation of abstract is another way, a very common way how our studies and the results can be presented. This is one way that you can present your poster presentation or poster abstract. It again depends on the author's guideline or the conference guidelines to prepare your presentation. Sometimes it's 1 PowerPoint slide, sometimes 1 PDF, sometimes 2 pages PowerPoint or 2 pages presentation. And it allows you to write in structured or unstructured abstract, how many tables, how many figures, and how many word count. And when you prepare your poster presentation, you have the provision of using colors, different fonts, if it is allowed, and font sizes and images. Nowadays, some conferences allows our scientists or the students to present their abstract, poster abstracts in a digital screen. If you have the provision to present your abstract in a digital screen or a TV screen, if possible, make an animation. That is the most powerful way to pass your abstract or the finding, right? And the graphical abstract, so most of the journals nowadays, and by looking at the graphical abstract, the audience should understand what you have done. Now, in this case, you can see and something called aristolochic acid is extracted from this plant and especially leaves and root. And this is how they have analyzed this aristolochic acid by Western blotting or electrophoresis. And then this is basically what they have done. This aristolochic acid have tested for the inhibition of Russell's viper venom, right? By looking at the abstract, the person who is familiar in this field can understand what you have done within a half a minute. That is the overall idea of graphical abstract. When you prepare your graphical abstract, before you submit, just give your graphical abstract, show your graphical abstract to another person who is in the same field, and check whether that person can understand what you have presented in the graphical abstract without telling. Right. This is another graphical abstract. You see the population, a moderately severe asthmatic patient. Total number is 142. They divided into two groups. One group of patients had azithromycin, other group of patients had placebo, nothing. And then what they have done after the azithromycin and placebo, this is a randomized controlled trial. And this is a RCT. You can see this randomized controlled trial. And they have measured the TNF, TNF-R1 and TNF-R2. These are the parameters in by using ELISA in their serum sample and sputum. What they have found, TNF-R1 is higher in severe asthmatic group compared to non-severe asthmatic group, and see the effect of azithromycin and the level of TNF level. And see effect of azithromycin is powerful. And you can see the baseline to the end of the treatment. Azithromycin reduced the TNF compared to the placebo. This way, you can present what you have done, how you have done, what you have found in an effective way within a half a minute or 15 seconds. That is the main purpose of graphical abstract. Then the keywords, most of the international conference and the abstract in full papers, they ask to write keywords. Keyword search results are directly related to the quality of your abstract appearing in the database. Whether your abstract is going to be appeared in PubMed at number 1 or number 2 or last depends on the quality of keywords that you choose in your abstract. When it's like searching something in Google. When you search something in Google, what appeared as results in Google search depend on the keywords. Depend on the keywords of your search, plus depend on the keywords of that individual results matched together to appear in the search results. Therefore, when your abstract appeared in the database search and what position is your abstract is appearing in your database depends on your keyword selection. Keywords are the things that the database managers utilize to categorize your article in the databases. Include the technical techniques and specific methodology. Focus on the main topic and avoid keywords that are only one word. You can write snakes. You can write antivenom. No, write snake antivenom. Antivenom Sri Lanka. Something like that. You can combine the two words, especially write in abstract. Most of the time I have seen all the keywords listed under the keywords are the words that you have presented in the title. No, please remember all the words that you mention in the title automatically keywords. You have to put, in addition, you have to put completely different words under the keywords other than what you have written in the title. Therefore, you don't need to use the same words that you have present in the title under the keywords. It may be similar, but don't use the same words that you use in the title as keywords. It's a waste of your keyword selection, right? Right. At the end of this presentation, this is the end of the presentation. I have found these two very good sources, education sources of abstract writing skills to develop the abstract writing skills. One is from Stanford University Writing in Science. it's not only about abstract writing, it's about scientific writing. It's a very good course, which comes under Coursera. You can freely create an account and log in, and then you can access to many of these good learning resources. I highly recommend you to follow this Stanford Writing in Science course, which is free and which is comprehensive. And at the end, you will have a certificate and it's really valid, right? And then there's another very good source, the Principles of Academic Writing. Please go through that website as well and follow academic writing course. Short courses, but they are very good resources to enhance your knowledge and understanding and skills about scientific writing. There are some other 2 resources as well. You can try those two as well. And that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions based on the abstract writing, and I will try my best to answer to your questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kalana. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I mean my connection is really unstable, so that's so anyway. So thank you very much for presenting the informative and comprehensive, that presentation, and then this is open for discussion for any questions from those who are joined here, but others are joined from we don't have, those who are joined from YouTube and FB, they don't have access to ask direct questions. Maybe they have sent, that message to us. Anyway, those who are in this, the link can ask question. Okay, Kalana, actually that those who, for the sake of the other people anyway, those who are joined YouTube and FB. So sometimes I see, some abstract, that the title and objectives and the conclusion are not aligned each other. So what is your opinion for this kind of thing?
Yes, that's a very good question and a very nice point to discuss at the end of this webinar, President. Like, yes, that means like, especially I have seen this non-alignment of different sections of the abstract, especially when the students are writing the abstracts. And that's a very common mistake and a common issue when unexperienced writers are writing abstract. And that shouldn't allow, that can't allow, and that will definitely reduce the impact or effectiveness of your scientific communication. Always a title should describe what you have done. An introduction should exactly match with your objectives and results, and your results, the methodology should be aligned with what you have found, and then results should match with the discussions and conclusion. That's why all the sentences, all the information in the abstract should be nicely connected, cohesive, and interrelated into a logical sequence. That is a very important thing. And always keep the title and the objectives in your mind while you are writing the other sections also. When you write introduction, keep the title in your head. When you write methodology, keep the overall study in your mind. When you write results and conclusion, always think about the title and other objectives as well. Because it's not, it's a challenge. It's a challenge within a very limited word count. You have to write everything in a very nice way. It's like a baking a cake, a nice cake, and decorating with a very colorful and very fragile and minute detail icing. It's very difficult. It needs skills. But when you write again and again and again, automatically your writing skills will build up. But cohesion is a very important thing to determine whether your abstract will be successfully selected for the conference or to the journal.
Okay, then
And most of the time, sorry, Professor Neil, most of the
Yeah.
time when you submit a full article to a journal for a publication, your article will initially go to the editor, section editor or the academic editor of the journal. And initially, the editor will read the abstract, nothing else. Based on the quality of the abstract, the editor will decide whether I'm going to reject this without sending to the reviewing, or whether I'm going to send this article for reviewing. Therefore, abstract is the most important part, and most important section should be free of errors when you are submitting your full paper to a good journal.
Okay. So other thing is actually when I review the abstract, and normally I see especially in Sri Lankan context, some researchers, they do research in vitro, and conclusion end up with giving that the connecting the real situations that are recognized in actual animals. So the diseases in actual animals. So the diseases actually present in animals. So any other situations maybe. So they try to give in the conclusion, some researchers, they try to connect their findings, try to align their findings, that the in vitro findings with clinical scenarios. So what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, another good question, Professor Neil. Thank you for raising that. And if you have done an in vitro study, your conclusion should end at the level of in vitro. If you have done an in vivo or an animal study, your conclusion should confine to the animal study. If you have done a human study, then you can say, for this cohort of people, this is my finding and this is clinically applicable. Your conclusion always should restricted to your study type. Based on your in vitro study results and conclusion, you can't apply or conclude an in vivo or an human study. That is completely wrong. And if your study conclusion is based on animal study, like in vivo study, you can't suggest this finding conclude the effectiveness of drug A to the tuberculosis or such disease openly. No, you can't do that. But at the end of your conclusion, you precisely conclude your study to the in vitro or in vivo or animals or human study. But after concluding, as a future implication, it depends on the word count of the abstract. If you are in a high number of word count, you can write this way. The results of this in vitro study highlights and enhances the importance of doing an animal study or a human study to find or to explore the association between drug A and disease B. That is not the conclusion. That is a future implication sentence. Most of the time, 250, 300 word abstract limit, there is no provision to write a future implication sentence. But if you are working in a 400 or 500 word count abstract, yes, at the end of the conclusion, always conclusion should confine to your study methodology, in vitro or animal study or human. And then you can write another open-ended implication or future perspective sentence. The results of this study highlights the importance of conducting another clinical trial in human to find the association between A and B, something like that. But that is out of what you have done.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is, can you include the reference details or reference materials to the body of the abstract?
It depends on the author's guideline or the conference abstract guideline. Most of the Sri Lankan abstract guidelines not allow don't allow to put any references. Sometimes I have seen 1 or 2 years in IPERS also give that provision. They allow us to use maximum 2 references in the abstract. Maximum 2 references. It depends on the author's guideline. If it has not been specifically mentioned about including references, don't include any references. That's my advice. Unless they are specifically say you have the provision to include 1 or 2 references under this style, then you can cite 1 or 2 references either in methodology or in the introduction or in the discussion.
Most
But in
of
journal articles, they never allow us to use any references in the journal article abstracts.
Yeah, that is my experience in that in the international context as an author, as a reviewer. Normally, according to instructions, author instructions and the instructions of the reviewer, even they specifically mentions actually. So they are disagreement of including this. I mean the information, reference information, include reference information to the abstract. So that is the thing actually. So anyway, so in the Sri Lankan context, I saw many times actually the authors, they have included all these things. And the other thing is actually you have give all the, important points during your presentation. But anyway, I like to ask sometimes actually people, authors think, that the include the knowing the facts to the introduction section or the methodology section can give very, good impact to your abstract. That conference abstract. So that is why sometimes they don't have much, enough space for the, include results and that is why they can't actually limit it to the, the indicated, number of words or, that the limit given space given to you anyway. Sometimes we have to, upload your abstract to online platforms. Actually, in the platform, they don't allow, that exceed in the limited number. So this is the complaint sometimes I get, during the Sri Lankan context, when we organize this kind of thing, they say they don't have enough space, that include their, that the important, that information they are to the abstract. But after we, discuss, after the discussions, I realized that they try to include the already known facts available in the scientific context, try to include their abstract. That I think you already mentioned that one, but what do you think about this one?
I totally agree with you. Like that's why at the beginning of my presentation, I told you like most of us, including me, at the very beginning when I was writing my abstract and journal papers, like I try to write everything under the introduction, right? Because this is usually read by the known people. They are familiar with the field of study and the expertise or the field of science. Therefore, especially in abstract writing, introduction, you can directly jump to your topic, right? And you can directly describe the problem that you are going to address and describe in this abstract. You don't need to write like tuberculosis among Sri Lankan elephants are prevalent or something like that, right? And you don't need that. You precisely jump into the problem by the first sentence. That is important. Like you don't need to write great detail and the background. If they want to find the background information, either they have to come to the conference and listen to your talk, or they have to read the full paper. Therefore, abstract introduction, if it is a 250 or 300 word abstract, maximum 1 sentence just for the introduction, 2nd sentence for the justification of your study, 3rd sentence is to introduce your aims or the objectives. Not more than that. Maximum 3 sentences under introduction, justification, and introducing your aims and objectives. And that's why it's very tricky, and you need to develop that skill. You at the very beginning, like you are in a doubt, okay, if I have not presented this information I don't know whether that would be right, but this is a very relevant finding, but I need to include this introduction. Then the introduction will be lengthy and you will struggle to find out write the abstract within the word count. Therefore, always think you don't need to write everything in the abstract, unnecessary thing in the abstract, and the well-known things. Well-known things are known by everyone. Just precisely jump into your question.
The same thing, relate to the same, that all the information, right, that try to input to your or present to your abstract, but this is relate to the results. Some the researchers, they have a lot of, the results finding. And sometimes some authors, they try to include all the findings to the one abstract. So what is your opinion? Actually, sometimes actually they don't have enough space and they can't build up very good, scenario. So the story in one, the very precise and concise abstract. So what is your opinion on this kind of finding? If you have a lot of, the findings, how do you manage these things?
Just before you write and select what you are going to present under the results section, check the objective. You have to give the answer to your objective, what you have mentioned in the objectives under the results. That's number one. If you are going to explore the relationship between drug A and disease B, under the results, you have to find out whether the drug A is effective for disease B or whether it's not effective. If it is effective, present to what extent which is effective. If it is not effective, what extent it is not effective. Using your statistics in a very brief way that I presented. When you write your results, check whether you have precisely answered the question that you have mentioned under the objectives. That is number one. After giving the answer, providing the answer for the objective, then check about what are the other secondary and tertiary results and findings that I can present under the results based on the given word count. As I explained earlier, you can use up to 50% of your word count to your results. Therefore, results should be the bulkiest part and the lengthiest part of your abstract. Use that 50% of the word count, giving priority to describe the answer for the objectives. That is the best way to conclude whether you have nicely presented your results. If you have not given the answer to your objective, you are failed. When you give the answer to your objectives, then check whether you can present the secondary and tertiary findings according to the word count.
Okay, Professor Kalana, that is only from my side. Mr. President, can we conclude this session, or do we have any other things to, tell to pass to our membership or those who are logging into this session? Dr. Ijaz? Professor Kalana, I think that today we are having very bad connection, that my internet connection also really poor. And these days, some providers are, that their signaling capacity are really poor, So that is the reason maybe he's also struggling to log into this one anyway. So thank you very much for actually accept my invitation and our invitation from the SLVA and, that your contribution today. And we got a very, informative and very good idea about how to write abstract, and it is really good for our beginners. And you are giving your massive support for us, to our beginners, to that build up their career. Thank you very much for everything you are doing for Sri Lankan Veterinary Association. Thank you, Professor Kalana. So this is the time to conclude this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Neil. I will share my presentation with you, and then if someone wants to have it, like you can share it with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.